Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the Rivian infotainment system. This is going to be almost exactly the same on both the Rivian R1T and the R1S. So no matter which vehicle you have, this video is going to cover everything. So whether you're waiting for your Rivian, whether you just got your Rivian, or whether you've had it for a while and just haven't had time to dive into it, this video is going to cover everything. So let's get into it. So we're here inside the vehicle, and the display is where you're going to do everything. You're going to manage all the functions and features of the vehicle. Now on the main display, we've got a whole bunch of different settings. Something introduced in a new update is where you can swipe up to expose all the apps. You can also rearrange them by pressing and holding. So for example, if I wanted to move the phone down here, I could do that, and I could replace one of the other icons. I'm not going to do that, but you can do that. Here is the navigation. Now on the navigation, there's several different things you can do. It's pretty basic unless you put a destination in, but I can change from a satellite view to this view. I like this view better for navigation, but a lot of folks like the actual satellite view because they can see things more clearly, and it kind of makes more sense as to what they're looking at. So you can toggle that on and off there. You can look for chargers, and you can filter them based on speed, network type. See, they even have Tesla in there. And then also availability. And we can refresh the availability there. You can also go into our settings. And something real nice about the Rivian is we can control the navigation volume right from here. I've seen so many vehicles where you can't control the navigation volume unless the voice is actually speaking. And then you have to really quickly, while the navigation voice is speaking, you have to really quickly adjust the volume to get the navigation volume adjusted. In this vehicle, in the Rivian, very easy. We can go up or down with the audio volume for the navigation, and we can even get rid of the speech altogether and just have it give us chimes instead. I like the speech. We can adjust the map orientation. You see we have three options here: 3D, 2D, and then a north-up orientation. I like to use the 3D. And you can also display the traffic, which I like to do. That works pretty well. It'll display like orange and red and really dark maroon if it's a standstill. So that's very useful. And then here at the bottom, we can clear search and history data. You can see searches, save destinations, and recent destinations. So we can clear that stuff out if we want. Up here in the upper right-hand corner, we can see the direction we're heading. So that's our compass. Now, of course, here we can go and we can navigate somewhere. So if I type in the navigation, let's say Disney World. I'm definitely going to have to charge to get to Disney World in Orlando. And here you can see when we put that destination in, it's added 5 charging stops to our route. And it's saying how long it's going to take us, how many miles it is, and when we're going to arrive. And so we can either start, or we can actually go into our settings here. Now this is part of the Better Route Planner, or ABRP integration. And we can set trip preferences. We can avoid highways, ferries, and tolls. We can choose our preferred range on arrival. Now it's got it set to 20%. But I like to set that down to 10%. That's what Tesla actually uses. Now, of course, it's going to recalculate when I do that. But if we go all the way down, I can set preferred charging networks. So it has Rivian there. I can tap some more: ChargePoint, Electrify America, EV Connect, EV Go, and so on and so forth. And I can either apply these options once, or I can set it to always use these options. And you can see that it's adjusted our trip. So pretty neat. And there's going to be a lot more to come to that, folks, with a better route planner integration. So this is only going to get better as time goes on. Next, we have the music multimedia section. You can see here we have the digital assistant. I'm not going to say her name. We can do Bluetooth audio from our mobile device. We have Tidal. We have TuneIn, Spotify, and then of course we have the HD radio. So a lot of different options there for streaming. Hopefully Rivian is going to add more options there. If we go down here, we have our settings. Now we can adjust the fade and balance by tapping this dot and moving it forward or backwards or left or right. And if we mess it up and we want to reset it to the default, we hit this little button up here, and that will reset it to the default settings. Same thing with the equalizer. Now I actually have my equalizer set to a custom setting here, but if we tap up here, we have several different options. We have the default, classical music, voice, rock, jazz, and hip hop. And of course I have it set to a custom setting for all these different sliders. And the same thing applies as with the fade and balance. If you change it and you don't want it to be at that setting anymore, you can hit this and it will set it back to the default. Down here we have 3D surround sound. I typically have that off. I've found that it causes like tinny sounding and just different audio artifacts, and I don't really like it, so I have it turned off. But you have on and then enhanced. Dynamic sound adjustment, this is going to be as you're driving down the road and the ambient noise increases. If you get on the highway, it will adjust the volume automatically to compensate. I have that set to low. You can set it to high, or you can completely turn it off if you want to adjust the volume yourself. So this is the audio section, which I'm almost positive that this is going to continue to get better with each update. Next, we have the vehicle drive mode settings. And this is where things get really interesting. So you have all these different drive modes: all-purpose, sport, conserve, snow, off-road, and towing. And then you have ride heights over here. And then you can adjust things like stability control, regenerative braking, and the ride quality. So I'm going to go ahead and press the brake pedal here so that I can light these up and get these options. Now, the first thing I'll go over is the drive modes.
Okay, everyone, Ken from the future here. I'm going to overlay the sections from the Rivian Owner's Guide onto this video to show you how Rivian defines each of these drive modes. Some of what I say in this video may not be totally correct, and this is always subject to change based on software updates that Rivian distributes over the air. These updates can also change the behavior of these drive modes. So it's important that you get a copy of the Rivian Owner's Guide from the Rivian website. The link will be in the video description. And you should always check back frequently at that link for updated versions of the Rivian Owner's Guide.
When you put it in sport mode, that's going to lower the ride height. And you see it's asking me if is it safe to lower the ride height. I'm just going to go ahead and say yes. And you can see it'll actually lower the vehicle. And while it's changing the ride height, it will blink. So that lets you know that the suspension is in the process of adjusting itself. You shouldn't step hard on the accelerator or make any really harsh movements with the vehicle while it's doing that. Once it goes solid again, that means the adjustment is complete. And you can also see the ground clearance in inches. This same bar over here is going to be in your display behind the steering wheel, and this shows you what ride height you're in out of the 5 available ride heights. So now I'm going to get more into the ride heights in a moment, but I want to go over the different drive modes. Sport mode has all the motors engaged all the time. So that means maximum power, maximum traction is going to be there 100% of the time. And your efficiency is going to be lower because of that. It will automatically change some other settings, but I'm not going to get too much into that. The conserve mode will only engage the front motor. So the rear motor or motors will be completely locked out in conserve mode. This is done for maximum efficiency, and your range will actually adjust when you put it in conserve mode. Your range will go up to let you know that that's your range given that particular drive mode, which I think is nice. Snow mode, if we switch to that, that changes some different things. That does put the brake regen on low. Now, I don't recommend that you use snow mode to lower the regen. A lot of folks online are trying to do that because they want more of a internal combustion engine type feel to the car. However, what's going to happen is your range is going to decrease significantly because you're no longer putting that energy back into the battery. You're also going to be using your brakes more, so your brakes are going to wear more than they would normally. But the snow mode is there for that reason, because regen can cause some traction issues. Normal and high regen can cause traction issues on ice and snow. So that's why that's there, and it allows you to switch it to low in that mode. Now, when you go to off-road mode, it gives you a warning. It says they're not intended for on-road situations. That enables the highest ride height setting. The highest ride height setting is going to give you 15 inches of ground clearance, but it will lower above 20 miles per hour. Now, we also have rock crawl mode, rally mode, drift mode, all-terrain. And then lastly, we have towing. Now, when you connect a trailer, as you've seen probably in some of my other videos, the tow mode will automatically pop up and ask you if you want to enable tow mode. It detected a trailer. And you have 2 ride height settings in tow mode, but that also exposes your trailer brake settings. The Rivian does have a built-in trailer brake controller, and you can adjust the trailer brake gain between 1 and 10. I typically ride it in 5, right in the middle. And then, of course, you can adjust your different other settings as well. So those are the different drive modes. 99.9% of the time, I drive around in all-purpose mode with a standard ride height. So next, we're going to get into the different ride heights. Now, you do have automatic ride height. Now, the automatic ride height, I have it off, and I like it that way.
Automatic ride height adjustment is currently only available in all-purpose, conserve, and snow modes.
And what it does is when it detects that you're driving above 55 miles per hour, it switches the vehicle into the low ride height to maximize efficiency. And then when you start driving slower, for example, when you get off the highway, it will switch the vehicle back into the standard ride height for a better ride. So that's what the automatic ride height adjustment does. I don't really like that. I found that the difference is negligible, at least in my situation. So I don't want to have it switching constantly between standard and low. If I am going to take a long trip, I may switch it to low, but most of the time I just leave it in standard. You can also adjust your ride heights. Now, there are 5 different ride height settings. There's lowest, low, standard, high, and highest. In all-purpose mode, you only have high, and high only works up to 45 miles per hour. Once you reach 45 miles per hour or exceed that, it will automatically switch out of the high ride height mode back down into the standard. The best ride height, in my opinion, to stay in most of the time is standard. That's going to give you the best ride quality and the best handling characteristics of the vehicle. You can switch it into low ride height if you want maximum efficiency on the highway. Now, when you put it in sport mode, you only have two options. That's low or lowest ride height. In conserve mode, you do have three options. You have standard, low, and lowest. And by default, automatic ride height adjustment is enabled in conserve mode. When you go into snow mode, you also have three ride height settings available to you. If you want the highest ride height setting, that's only going to be available in the off-road mode. And when you switch into towing mode, I'm going to go ahead and lower the ride height. I typically tow in standard. And you can only adjust the ride height when you're towing when the vehicle is in park. That's different from when you're driving in other modes. When you're towing a trailer, you can only adjust the ride height once you've put the vehicle in park. So you can't dynamically adjust it while you're driving down the road. I typically tow in standard. So that's basically all of the different ride heights that you have available. You have anywhere from 9.5 inches all the way up to 15.1 inches of ground clearance, depending on what ride height you select. The last thing I'm going to show you down here is the three settings at the bottom. Now, stability control, you have three different settings. You have on, reduced, and in reduced, it does allow a small amount of wheel spin, and off, it allows full wheel spin. I recommend for most people, keep this on. It's going to give you the safest driving experience in the Rivian that's available. Now, as far as brake regen, you have three different settings for that. You have standard, low, and high. The low setting is only available in some of the off-road modes and the snow mode. Standard and high are what's available in the other modes. And I recommend that you set this on high. That's going to put the maximum amount of power back into your battery when you let off the accelerator. If you find that high is too aggressive, or if you have a lot of downhill driving, and I've seen a lot of folks post about this, if you have a lot of downhill driving and you find that you get the regen limiter, you can switch it to normal or standard, and that will, in a lot of cases, allow you to keep the regen longer. You may have to play with that based on your specific driving conditions, but I always set that to high. And then as far as ride, you have either stiff or soft. This is going to be the damping for the suspension. Now, I typically in all-purpose mode will ride around with it in soft. When you get into sport modes, towing mode, it will put it in stiff by default to tighten up the suspension and allow you to have more control over the vehicle. Now, the ride is a little harsher when you put it in stiff. So if you want the best possible ride, soft. If you want the most control, stiff. So those are all the settings for driving the vehicle. This is very comprehensive, and I expect Rivian will probably make some more changes here soon with these drive modes. But this is a very capable vehicle, tons of drive modes, a lot of configurability on how the vehicle performs. It really makes this vehicle kind of a jack of all trades, and it does it all well. That's the surprising thing. So yeah, I mean, it's just a great vehicle, lots of configurability. Next, we're going to get into the vehicle settings. So we tap on that icon down here. These are pretty basic. We do have something called car wash mode. If we tap this, this tells us what car wash mode does. Whether you're hand washing the vehicle or taking it to a car wash, it's good to enable this when you're washing it. We can open the hood from here. We can open the charge port. We can lock and unlock. We can turn on the lights in the bed. If you have the R1S, you'll also be able to control the lighting in the back and open the lift gate and that kind of stuff. but this is the T that we're in now. We can also open the gear tunnel doors, open the tailgate. We can adjust the wheel and mirrors. We can fold in the mirrors manually. Now, the mirrors usually auto fold in when you lock the vehicle, but in certain scenarios, like if you're parking in a tight spot or a tight garage, you may want to manually fold the mirrors. You can do that here. And the passenger windows, if you have kids in the back and you want to keep them from playing with the windows, you can lock them out here using that. Over here on the left, if we tap lighting, we can adjust the cabin lights. Now I have them set to stay off. They can be set to turn on with the door. We can adjust the brightness of them, and we can also turn them on manually. For both of the displays, I have them set to auto. This is going to be day mode or night mode. Automatic is the setting I recommend. And then for brightness, I have it set on automatic brightness, but you have a slider here. You can adjust the brightness as well. There is a display in the rear for temperature and heated seats. Again, if you have kids back there and they're playing around and you want to lock that screen, you can lock that and they won't be able to adjust anything on that screen. Lastly, over here on the right, we have the accent lights, and we can turn them on or off by hitting this toggle. And then we can also adjust the brightness. We have 3 different settings. Next, we have the cameras. And this is really nice because we have the front view, a big, large front view camera, and then we have a 360-degree view. You can see I'm parked here in a parking spot. We can see the lines. We can see all around the truck. I can also hit this button to look at my back camera, my rear view camera. So you can toggle that back and forth. And then you can also tap this and it'll switch to the side cameras. Okay. And that switches it back to the 360-degree view. So this is useful if you're parking near a curb and you want to be able to see how close you are to the curb. You can go in here and you can tap this and that'll show you those. The 360 works very well also. Most of the time, I leave it in the 360. And if you're in reverse, it automatically brings up the rear view. Next, I'm going to take a look at the gear guard. Now, in gear guard, we have, these are all the motion cam incidents and drive cam items that have been recorded. This is where you can play the video, but I'm going to mainly look at the settings here. And we have some different things. I actually have drive cam enabled. That's the dash cam feature of the Rivian. And you'll need an external SSD or memory card to record that footage. I use an SSD to do that. And you can eject the SSD from here. Of course, you can toggle it on and off. And the drive cam can also be activated using this little camera icon up here. If you tap that, it will manually do a recording and save it. We can also turn these features on or off. Incidents, motion cam. Now, we can turn that on and I can have it off at home. And I actually do have the motion cam off at home so that it doesn't trigger every time I walk by it. And then we have the alarm in here as well. So next I'm going to go into the settings of the vehicle. And in the settings, this is where we can do a lot more configuration. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. You'll have to go through each one of these for your vehicle and determine what you want to set it to. But we have our Bluetooth devices. This is where we're going to pair devices to get Bluetooth audio. We have Wi-Fi. You're going to want to connect your vehicle to Wi-Fi so you can download updates and things like that. We have a hotspot. The Rivian does have an included hotspot. We can turn that on or off. We can also make configuration changes by tapping there. Next, we have garages. The Rivian has a built-in home link where we can control our garage doors from the vehicle. There's a little icon up here that allows you to control it once you set it up in here. And the last thing under Connect is our dock. This is where our Rivian Bluetooth speaker is. We can lock or unlock the accessory dock there. So if we have it locked, the speaker will not be able to be removed. Next, we have vehicle. And the first thing that comes up is access, doors, door unlocking behavior, auto unlock when you put it in park, proximity locking, automatic relock, locking sounds on the exterior. We can kneel the vehicle upon parking to make it easier for folks to get into and out of the vehicle. We have roomy entry and exit. A lot of vehicles have this where it moves the seat back when you get in or out. Then when you get in, it puts it in the driving position. We have a bunch of other settings here: auto mirror folding, side mirror auto unfolding, rear and side mirror auto tinting. This will be when it's nighttime and there's headlights, that they won't blind you when they reflect. Power hood operation, on or off for that. Driver Plus, we can set some settings in here for collision warning, automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, blind spot warning, park assist. We have a rear accessory mode. I've never used that, and I've heard folks had issues when they did turn that on because it disables some things, so I don't do anything with that. Automatic front camera, rear cross traffic warning, and automatic high beams. Next, we have units. This is going to allow us to adjust whether we want, Fahrenheit, Celsius, PSI or bar. The range in the driver's display, I like to show both the estimated range and the state of charge of the battery. So I have it set to both. By default, I believe it just shows you the miles, but you can change that here. Updates, it tells you what the current update is on the system, and if you tap on it, it'll give you all the details of that update. Service, we have some different things we can do in here: wiper service, tire change mode, parking brake release, show and tell mode, vehicle shipping, and we can also, now this is new in a recent update, we can calibrate the driver's seat and steering wheel. Lastly, under vehicle, we have exterior lighting. So this is going to allow you to change the interactive lighting, the light bar configuration, entry lights, guide lights, and then you can also have automatic high beams on or off here, but you can turn the charge port off when it's locked, and I have it off there. Next, we have apps. This is pretty basic in here. You can enable or disable HD radio, and then you have your Alexa configuration. Drivers and keys. This is going to allow you to configure keys and drivers. Now, if you want to add an additional driver, you're going to have to do that through the app, but you can modify the keys that are associated with that driver in here. Data and privacy, precise location sharing, highway assist, Rivian mobile app, Alexa, and Rivian data analytics. And next we have legal. Just a bunch of legal stuff in here, folks. Under about, this is where we access our odometer as well as our 2 trip meters. We can rename the vehicle, and it tells us all the information about it, the model, the VIN, the interior, and so on and so forth. Next, we're going to go into the energy section. And the energy section is pretty basic. We can look at our range, and that's going to be based on the drive mode that we're in. We can open the charge port from here. We can set the charging limit. Now, I have mine set to 70%. Rivian recommends that for daily usage. If 70% is not quite enough, you can set it to 85%. Now, I recommend you do 70 unless you feel like your daily driving is going to take you down below 20% state of charge, because you really don't want to be doing that every day. So if you feel like you're going to go below 20% every day, then I would increase it to 85%. I would never set it to 100%. I do change it to 100, but only when I go on a long road trip. And I never want the vehicle sitting around fully charged. If you charge it to 100%, you want to do that right when you're ready to leave and minimize the amount of time it spends at 100%. You can also set a custom charge limit now. Rivian recently added this within the past several months. And the way you do that is you just adjust this slider. Now, I have 80% set there for my custom limit because that's what I set it to when I'm on a road trip and I'm charging. That way it doesn't charge above 80%. And it will also tell me when I plug in a fast charger how long it's going to take to charge based on what I have my charge limit set to. So if I have it set to 100%, it's going to give me a really long charging time. So that's another reason why I set it to 80, because it's going to tell me exactly how long it will take me to get to 80%. And those of you that are familiar with EVs will know anytime you charge above 80%, the charging speed slows dramatically. Next, we have our accessory power outlets. On the R1S, this is going to be, there's a single outlet in the cargo area, and then there's one underneath the rear display in the second row. On the truck, it's going to control the one under the second row display. It's also going to control the two outlets that are in the bed. You tap this and you can turn them on, and they don't allow you to turn it on for any more than 3 days because this protects you from running the battery down. But you can turn it on for a certain period of time, anywhere from 1 hour to 3 days. You can set a charging schedule. So if you're in an area that has a time of use electricity rate plan, typically those will give you the cheapest rate between 10 or 11 p.m. and 6 or 7 a.m. If that's the case in your area, then you can set a charging schedule so that you're only charging the truck when you're getting the best rate for electricity. So this minimizes your charging costs. We have a single rate no matter what time of day we charge, so that's off for us. Lastly, we can set the charging limit. Now, Rivian will automatically adjust this based on the charger that you're plugged into, but there are some cases where you may want to manually set the charging limit. And you can do that here. The max charge rate on level 2 for the Rivian R1T and R1S is 48 amps. So you can adjust this down all the way down to 8 amps. And of course, all the way up to 48, which is the maximum. One scenario where you would want to adjust that is if you're plugged into a 120 volt outlet using the mobile charger. You may not want it to pull the full 12 amps. You may want it to only pull 8 amps, especially if you have something else plugged into it. So you can adjust that here. Last thing I'm going to show you is the climate controls. Now, when you tap the temperature here, we have a whole bunch of different stuff. On the R1S, the SUV, you will have a third setting here for the back. And you'll have the front, middle, and back. Since we're in the truck, we only have the front and the back. You can turn the climate control completely off by tapping that. You can switch to the back and the front by tapping one of those. Again, if you have the R1S, you will have a middle selection as well. Heated steering wheel, heated seat, cooled seat, ventilated seats, not a cooled seat. A lot of folks get confused with that. If the truck is extremely hot inside, all the ventilated seat's going to do is recirculate the air that's already in the vehicle. So if the vehicle's really hot, it's going to recirculate hot air. So just be aware of that. We can turn the AC on and off, or the heat. This is if you want to maximize your efficiency. It will not run the heater or the AC compressor when you turn that off. Fan speed, it's set on automatic, but we can adjust that. There are 6 different fan speed settings. Automatic climate control on or off. Synchronize, This will synchronize the temperature between the left zone and the right zone. If that's off, each passenger can adjust his or her temperature. Then we have the recirculate, and we have adjustments for the passenger seat over here as well. To adjust where the air is going, we can adjust by tapping and holding and then moving this around. Up, down, left, right. This will adjust where the vents are aimed. We can also turn different vents on or off by tapping them quickly. If we want the windshield vent to be on, we can tap that. The floor vents, same thing. Lastly, we have pet mode. So this is if you have a pet in the vehicle. It's very similar to Tesla's pet mode or dog mode. When you turn that on, it makes sure the climate control stays on. It also displays a message on the screen that says the pet mode is on, and it will show the temperature inside the vehicle so that any passersby will know that your pet is safe inside. Last thing I'm going to show you is the camping mode. The camping mode is obviously for camping. So you can turn on camp courtesy mode. You can turn the displays off. You can turn the floodlights off. And what camp courtesy mode is going to do is turn a lot of the lighting off so that it doesn't light up the area or disturb other people, the exterior lighting, that is. We can also control the outlets here, and then we can go into our energy use. And if you tap the eye, it tells you what the 3 different modes, stay off, normal, and stay on, will do. Last thing we have here is the ability to level the truck. This is useful if you're on an uneven surface. The truck will level itself so that the inside is level. Okay, everyone. So that's going to put a wrap on it. I hope you found this information useful. If there's anything we didn't cover, or if you have any additional questions, let us know down in the comments section what's on your mind. We always have some great discussions down there. As always, folks, remember to hit that like button. It really helps us out, and we really appreciate it. Click on subscribe, and then hit the notification bell so you get notified anytime we add new content. Thank you guys so much for watching.